embark on the Great Canadian Farm Tour, it is important to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of Indigenous peoples. Agriculture in the Classroom Canada recognizes and honors the enduring presence of the diverse Indigenous communities across Canada, including the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. We acknowledge the deep connection that Indigenous peoples have to the land, waters, resources, and all of agriculture. We express our gratitude for their stewardship and custodianship of these lands for generations. Agriculture in the Classroom Canada recognizes that acknowledging the traditional territories we reside and work on is only a small step towards reconciliation. We ask that we all continue to learn more about the Indigenous peoples in these regions, to consider the history and ongoing colonialism on this land, and to reflect on how each of us can contribute to reconciliation. Hello, bonjour! Welcome everyone to our next stop on Season 5 of the Great Canadian Farm Tour. Bienvenue à tous à notre prochain arrêt de la saison 5 de la Grande Tournée des Fermes canadiennes. We're so excited to have everyone join us today from across Canada. Nous sommes ravis que vous soyez là aujourd'hui, venus de partout au Canada. My name is Mercedes from Agriculture in the Classroom Canada, and I'll be your MC for today. Je m'appelle Mercedes d'Agriculture en Classe Canada, and je serai votre maître de cérémonie aujourd'hui. Before we get started, we just want to provide a few reminders. For those who want to follow along in French, please use the Boost Lingo link provided in the chat to access the interpreting services provided for today. We ask that everyone is mindful this is an educational event, so inappropriate conduct such as spamming or improper comments in the chat will not be tolerated. Throughout the tour, we welcome you to post your questions in the chat to get them answered. We'll answer as many questions as possible. The mystery word for your student activity books will appear at the end of the episode, so please stick around. Students, fun learning will be happening that can be written in your student activity books, which will be shared during the brain break. Finally, we'd love to know where everyone is joining us from. Please comment in the chat your school and location. Now, we'd like to welcome our next tour host of the Great Canadian Farm Tour, Jada from Flags Dulse Inc. in New-Brunswick. Hello, Jada.
Hey, everybody.
Jada, thank you for joining us today. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about yourself to get us started.
So my name is Jada Mason, and I am the owner-operator of Flags Dulse, which is a seaweed company based on Graham Island in the middle of the Bay of Fundy in New Brunswick, Canada. My company is all about seaweeds and different seaweed plants and how we do things.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for sharing that little bit about yourself, Jada. Jada, before we get into all of our tour experiences with the students, I was wondering if you want to do any local shout outs to your local schools.
I'd like to do a local shout out to our Graham Community School, where I have a son who is in grade 6 himself, and this is his first year in middle school. So I'd like to shout out to our Graham Community School.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks for doing that. I'm sure they're very excited to have that specific shout out to them. Jada, since Dulse season is now over for you, we're going to learn more about it by watching a series of videos while hearing from you about what it takes to farm it. So what we're going to do is get started with our first video with Jada speaking a little bit more to what it takes to farm seaweed. So let's get started with our first video.
This is Dark Harbor. This is where they leave to go and pick seaweed. That is my husband, Zach, also business partner. And that little boat that you see is the boat that they go out into the ocean and pick the dulse and other seaweeds in. What they're doing now is they have to cross this big rock wall that you see the dory coming up. That is the boat is called a dory. And you'll see the big rock natural wall. These are the shores that the seaweed grows on. You'll see that there's harvesters picking the seaweeds.
Jada, as we're watching this great video, I'm going to ask you a quick question. What is
Sure.
the season for harvesting seaweed? What is there a specific time period for you?
There is two different spots on Grand Manan that you can harvest seaweed, known as Dark Harbor, which this is the video. Dark Harbor Dulse is not normally picked until the month of June, about probably around the end of it. But the other place that people do harvest is known as the Passages. That is in the front of the island. You can start harvesting products out of there in the early seasons as April, as long as the sun is out to be able to dry it.
And here in this video, I see there's one boat. Is it one boat that accomplishes everything that you
No,
have?
no, I have several dories. I own 9 dories myself as the business, and then some of my harvesters that go and gather the products own their own dories. So I am a team of anywhere between 25 to 45 different harvesters. And in some of the boats, there could be 2 to 3 people on a tide.
Well, thanks for explaining and going into depth about that first video. Let's pull up some questions from students across Canada and get those answered. So
Yep.
here we are from Nate, who is wondering how many different types of seaweed are there?
Wow, that's a good question, Nate. There's many a types of seaweeds. Personally, myself and my company, we deal with 9 different seaweeds. So our main seaweed that we deal with on a regular is known as Dulse. That is part of the red seaweed family. We also deal with a product called Irish moss, and that is also a red seaweed. We deal with nori, sea lettuce, sea truffle, and sea lettuce, and some different kelps. Not all kelps, but a couple.
That's actually very interesting. And this is just a personal question of mine, Jada. Are they used for different things, these different kelps and seaweeds? Is there one just for food and one's for something else? Could you explain a little bit more about that?
All the seaweeds are very healthy for you, and they are all used in foods, or you can just eat them as a snack, or some people cook with them. Some people use this for skincare. Um, it's in certain types of dog foods, um, all kinds of healthy, good things.
Wow, it's such a diverse crop, and I've never really thought about it in terms of farming. So thank you for sharing a little bit more about it. Now let's bring another question up from students across Canada and get their questions answered. Now, Colton is wondering how much seaweed do you grow each year? And that might be a complicating question to answer.
That is a pretty complicated one, Colton. Seaweed grows all year, um, and it grows different. Um, Sometimes in the winter it grows better because the water is colder, and but in the wintertime we don't harvest because um, the seaweed isn't able to dry, because all seaweeds are normally on Grand Manan dried by the natural sunlight and the heat from the summer. So I'm not really sure how much seaweed grows, but I do know it grows year round, and it's better when the water temperature is colder for it to grow. It spores better, which means it seeds.
And that's I think a great question. I'll segue into asking you to expand on, Jada. Do you plant the seaweed or is it just already there and it naturally
It's
spreads?
natural spread. It starts from it's called a stipe. For adults is a stipe, so that's pretty much like a little seed, and that will attach itself to a what we would say as a holdfast. So that could be a mussel bed, which would be like the mussels that you eat, um, or a rock or anything. And then when it attaches itself, the stipe begins to grow and flower. It's flat, and then it breaks off into multiple segments.
Thanks for expanding on that. I had no idea. I was wondering if you had to plant it or it just naturally grows, which makes it very sustainable as a product. The fact that you don't have to plant it, it's just naturally expanding itself and growing and spreading.
Yes.
Now we're going to pull up one more question before we head into our second video. So let's pull up another question. And Sadie is wondering, how big does the seaweed get?
Well, it all depends on which seaweed you're talking about. Kelp, different forms of kelp can grow very long. Not sure if you've ever been to a beach and seen any, which would be known as kombu. It looks like a big long kite, and it has a big long stem on it. And some kids, if you've ever been to a beach, um, play with it like it would be a kite. So that one can grow pretty long, probably about 10, 14 feet long. And Dulse can grow in between, well, oh, it all depends, I guess. It depends on how well it is in the water temperature. Um, Adults can be quite wide with a long ribbon of about 50 centimeters. Um, Irish moss is not a long seaweed. It is just a little tiny, fluffy, almost looks like a pom pom or a cheerleader pom pom. It's small and fluffy. Nori is flat and skinny and not very long. What else? Sea lettuce, that can be a little bit longer, like Dulse. And some of the kelps, known as, we call a certain kelp finger kelp because it looks like long fingers. So that one does have longer leaves to it. Just trying to think of which ones, I guess, that some can be pretty long. Most of the kelp family are the longest known seaweeds.
I think that could be a great challenge for all the students watching across Canada to go and research the different lengths of each
Right.
different kind of breed
Yes.
of kelp. So I think that's a great one. So we're going to challenge all of you to do that.
Yes. There's several different kelps that you can challenge. The longest one you're probably going to find is known as bull kelp.
Oh, that's a great fun fact. So start researching, everyone. And now we're going to pull up our second video right now. And then we're going to learn a little bit more about dulse farming with Jada. So we're going to pull it up in a few seconds. So Jada, can you tell me what's happening?
So this here is after the harvest, after they go to the beach and pick it. They run it through these stands that you see that will fluff up your dulse and make it so that it's not all compacted. So what he's doing right now is he's cleaning out all the other seaweeds and he's running it through. And then you'll see that right now, this is the next step. This is called spreading dulse. So it's spread on a big piece of fishing twine on natural rocks that have been there for many, many moons. They lay it down flat like this. And as you see, it's a beautiful sunny day. The sun will dry it on one side. And as you see, there's some kids right there, younger kids. That is a big heritage of Graham and Ann and it's very family. When your parents do it on Graham and Ann, and if your parents are adults, 9 chances out of 10, you're probably going to help your parents with spreading the dulse. And that's what they're doing right now. These guys are pretty good little harvesters. So they've spread all their adults into big lanes, and the sun is starting to dry it.
As a quick question, Jada, is there a certain time period you wait for it to dry out in the sun? Usually like an hour, 2 hours?
No, it's pretty much a 12-hour situation, 4 to 5 on one side. And then when the time comes, you have to turn it with a big pole so that you can dry the other side by the natural sun up. So we always like to tell our harvesters like to have your product spread at an earlier time in the morning, so between 6 a.m., 7 a.m. We do not, I guess we don't really push that people spread after 11 o'clock, as that's pretty much part of your day. Your sun is the hottest around dinner time. So it dries one side by 1 o'clock. In the afternoon, we take a big pole and we flip it so that it can dry the other side, because it's all natural sun dried. So if it's not sunny, you can't dry Dulse.
Thanks for expanding upon that and showing how they go through the process of drying the dulse. Let's pull up some questions from students across Canada and get them answered. So our first one is London is wondering what inspired you to become a seaweed farmer.
Well, London, I have literally grown up with this company my whole entire life. I am 38 years old, and my grandfather, Leroy Flagg, was known as the King of Dulse on Grand Manan Island. Him and his brother and a couple friends discovered this industry from Dark Harbor, and they grew up out to Dark Harbor, so they chose to try it. So my grampy was known as the King of Dulse, and then my dad was, I guess, the Prince of Dulse. So I've just been a part of it my whole entire life. I've learned a lot through my dad and my grandfather both. Um, so I guess that out of my dad's three children, I was the one that took pride in it myself. I've worked in the company for 25 years, and I've owned for 2.5. And so, yeah, it's just been a big family business. So I continued it 25 years ago.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that about your family and the history of your family. It would seem that we can say instead of now the king, the prince, we're going to give you the title of Empress of Dulse, just to
Yes,
say that.
definitely. Yeah.
Now let's bring up one more question from students across Canada before we go into our commercial break. And Connor wants to know if different seaweeds grow in different temperatures. And that's a very interesting question.
Connor, that is a really good question. Um, Definitely, the seaweeds are different. So if the water is warmer, the seaweeds tend to be not as thick as if the water is colder, like our temperatures are on Grand Manan Island. So, like, for instance, Irish moss is different from Canada to the Caribbean. Ours is black and sometimes can be a little purple, opposed to when it's in warmer water, it tends to be a lighter color like white or yellowy. So a lot of people look for the product to be a darker product.
Wow, that's so interesting to hear about how temperatures can affect the color of the seaweed. So now we're
And
going
the
to head into
density.
and the density. So that's two important things. And I challenge everyone watching to go and start researching what seaweed looks like and the density of it across different areas across the world. So that's your next challenge.
Yep.
And then what we'll do is head into our commercial break, and then we'll be back with Jada to learn more about dulse farming. So we'll see you in a few moments.
See you soon.
And we're back with Jada, and we're going to jump in straight into our third video that we're watching to learn more about dulse farming with Jada. So let's bring that one up.
So here's where I was explaining that they're turning the dulse so that the other side of the dulse can dry. This is known as the turning process. So they roll it up on a big aluminum pole, which would be classed as food grade. And then now they're flipping it out. As you see, the wind blows a little bit. So when the wind and the sun help to dry it to be as crispy as it can be. Some people like it crispy, some people like it soft. It all depends on your preference. And this is our processing stage. Those 20-pound bags are going to local markets and stores. As you can see, we're in the processes of packaging. So this is what dulse looks like. And this is the world's best dark arbor dulse. As you see, it's like a brownie kind of purpley color. It's amazing. It really tastes amazing. So what you see here that I'm weighing on the scale, that's known as sea truffle. That's a different type of seaweed. That's pretty expensive seaweed actually to the harvester. So we pick that, we clean it. This green one is the sea lettuce I was explaining. That's super good. It tastes really great. But nothing beats the taste of that Graham dulse right there. This is my team that I had this summer, and we are processing in the 1-pound bags to do a shipment to St. John, Nouveau-Brunswick, which I myself travel and take it away. I have to travel a ferry for an hour and a half, and then I take it and deliver it to different stores, local people. This is a big roll of dulse that come in.
Thank you for explaining that whole process of how it gets processed and weighed and the different types of dulse. We could see visuals of what it all looked like. So we're going to jump in with some questions from students across Canada.
Sure.
So this is a question coming from Brooke or Brooke's class. Do the fish in the water eat the seaweed? And if they do, is that a problem for you with competing?
So fish, not that I know of, fish don't really eat the dulse. More so periwinkles. They like to attach themselves to it. And I don't know if they actually feed on it or not. That's a good question. Maybe we should try to Google that one. I'm not really sure. But I think more it's a place to hide, or I know crabs tend to bury themselves underneath of it so that they are sheltered away and hidden from their predators. But I do know that periwinkles um, lay some, they can tend to lay their eggs on it, and also they do tend to put holes in it by eating it.
Oh, that's a great question. And you mentioned holes, that they put holes in it when they eat it. Does that affect the grading and selling of it in any way,
Yes,
Jada?
it does. Yes, we class that as we tend to call it holy dalts or wormy dalts, just because, like, you know, worms eat holes and things. So that is a grade of dalts that we don't tend to buy. And if it is put into by missing when you're harvesting, we just pick it out and it goes into the garbage. It's not presentable enough to put it into a 1 pound bag.
Yeah, and that was a great way to explain it. For those watching, grading is where a farmer like Jada would look at the product, the dulse, to see if it's meeting the levels of standard to go and sell it to market. Is that the best way to explain it, Jada? Would you
Yes.
say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have three different grades of dalts, actually. So we
Oh,
have
wow.
number one grade, which is your top of the line, really good dalts. We also have a grade where we class it as seconds. So that's dalts that's not so great, but can still go to certain markets. And then we have a market that's known as grinding.
Thanks for expanding on that, Jada. And we're going to jump into our last video and then wrap up with Jada within the next few moments.
Take it to Pat. Tell Pat. Tell honey, I'm really.
And Jada right now has one of her little guys home. So we're just adapting here right now. Thank you, everyone.
Go take it to Pat. Tell him you want a puppy. Yeah, look, there's Daddy. We're watching a video. Go tell Pat. He needs to come help.
Now, as we're adapting with Jada, we're just watching a little bit of a video where they're rolling the dulse right now. I'm not an expert in it, but I'm sure Jada will jump in when she's ready.
So when he's rolling this dulse out, and you can see him picking things out of it, he's picking different seaweeds out of it. There's some gray leaf. There is different stringier types of seaweed. Just a second, please.
Thank you, everyone, as you're watching. We're so excited to have you today with Jada. And we're just going to finish wrapping up with her when she gets back. And we appreciate everybody's patience and adaptability as we're learning about dulse farming with Jada. So we're just going to finish up soon and learning about how they go about in processing and putting their dulse together for market. And then we have Jada back right now.
Sorry, guys. So about that, you'll see the guy that's bringing it in a big roll. So he just put that on the scale. This is a part where I'm going to grade the product. So for the first quality product, the harvesters are paid $13 a pound, which is a very high price for the best top clean adults, which normally is really what I only have been dealing with for the past 2 years. We do not have much of a seconds market right now, as that it has tended to be quite flooded. So these are my guys going through all those big rolls coming in after they've been weighed.
Thanks, Jada, for explaining that with us and being so adaptable with us as we're doing this tour with you. What we're going to do is we're going to ask one final question from students across Canada to you, and then we'll wrap up with any final comments you'd like to share. So we're going to bring up that last question from Mallory, grade 3. What is your favorite kind of seaweed?
My favorite kind of seaweed is dulse, Mallory. I I could eat Dulse every day. I love Dulse. I have lived on Dulse my whole entire life. When I was a little baby, I teethed on it so that the natural sea salt helped my gums to bring out my teeth. And I can honestly say that with my three boys, I have all three have done the same. They all love Dulse as well. Um, it's amazing. I hope that somewhere, I'm not sure where you're from, but I hope that maybe someday you can try number one dark harbor Dulse and give it a chance and see how you like it.
You stole the words right out of my mouth, Jada. I was going to challenge everybody to go out and try Dulse for themselves so that they could experience it. Now, Jada, is there any additional final words you'd like to share with everybody watching today?
I would like to share that if you guys have any opportunities to try any seaweeds, or if you're close to Graham and Ann, or if you ever need to go on a really fun summer vacation, you should try to get your parents to bring you to Graham and Ann, and then you can come and you can see my facility and how things work in the summer and try that awesome Graham and Ann Dulse.
Oh, that's a wonderful offer. So, for all those watching, we encourage you either to come out and visit Jada or visit any kind of local individual who may be producing Dulse, ask questions, and learn more how it's done, as well as get involved. I'm sure there's plenty of opportunities to help
Always.
do it, to help
Yeah,
do the
we can
work.
always get you to be involved.
Jada, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. I hope everyone learned something new today. I know I did. And before we close off this episode, and thank you everyone for waiting patiently, I'm excited to share the mystery word for today to go into your mystery books, your student activity books for the mystery phrase is dog or chien en français. So that'll be in number 7 blank mystery word. Thank you again for Jada for joining us on this episode of the Great Canadian Farm Tour. And our next stop will be tomorrow, November 27th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time at a chicken farm in Quebec. So we look forward to seeing you then. And goodbye for now. A bientôt. Bye bye, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us.